Hi, my name is Robert Cobbold and I'm the founding editor of the online publication Conscious Evolution. For the past 3 years I've worked in the education sector, most recently for the Green Schools project in the UK. And to start with, my role was to go into schools and to educate children about social and environmental issues, and then to come up with action plans that we'd come up with on the day and then they would implement after I'd left. So this could be things like planting a vegetable garden or organising a litter pick. After doing this for a few years, in the back of my mind, I gradually started to worry that these kind of interventions, although excellent, although they felt really good and the kids enjoyed them, they weren't ever going to get to the root of the problem of climate change. Because climate change is ultimately a systemic problem. It's a problem to do with the tragedy of the commons. It's a game theoretical problem. And it's a problem of cooperation. What's happened is that what's good for a nation or what's good for a company is totally misaligned with what's good for the planet and with humanity as a whole. And that the only way to really tackle a problem like climate change once and for all is to align individual and collective interests. So that when a company or a country acts in their own interest, they're also doing what's in the interest of the planet as a whole. Now, I assumed that these systemic level insights were at least roughly understood by teachers of climate change, not necessarily by students, of course, but by teachers. But last year, I went to the Natural History Museum for a conference on environmental education, and I ran a climate change game, which I'd adapted from the research of a man called Manfred Milinski. Now, the game is designed to test three things. Designed to test the cooperation of a load of actors in the system to see if they can cooperate together to tackle a problem like climate change. And what it brings to the fore is this understanding that actually, when it's not in your individual interest to do a certain action, then it's very, very hard to get people to cooperate. And so what it does is it shifts people away from pointing fingers and piecemeal small actions and into deeper level systemic interventions which actually get to the root of the problem. And to my great surprise, the reaction from these teachers was extraordinary. The discussion that it kicked up was incredible because they themselves had never really thought about the problem in this way. They primarily thought of it as a problem of bad companies and bad governments doing the wrong thing, and that if only the good guys were in charge, then we wouldn't have this problem. And what the game does is it actually puts you in the shoes of a company or a country making these difficult decisions. And it shows you that actually, when it's not in your interests, it becomes very, very difficult to do the right thing. So the example that you can always use is traveling. So I'm currently in Madrid. I'm visiting my sister out here. Now, even though I'm passionately dedicated to climate change, if the flight to get here is £25 and the train is £250, then even someone as passionately committed to climate change as me finds it very, very difficult to find the right choice, to make the right choice, because what's good for me is totally misaligned with what's good for the collective. And the climate change game teaches you to recognize the systemic level problem of climate change, and it teaches you to come up with systemic level solutions. Apart from anything else, it's also really fun. So I'm delighted to be working with Educate Global because now more than ever, we need carbon certified literacy teachers who understand the systemic nature of climate change and that don't just teach children that companies are bad and countries are bad, but that actually teach them to have a systemic level understanding of the problem and to be able to make wise interventions that get to the root of the problem. This is the kind of thing that our children need to know, and schools everywhere are going to have to incorporate this kind of thing into their curriculum, because it's not enough anymore that we have a generation of people growing up pointing fingers at people who they think are doing the wrong thing, coming up with actions that might solve some small local problem but don't really get to the root of it. We need to have a generation of people that really understand that in order to tackle climate change, we're going to need to cooperate as a planet. That we're going to need to find a way to work together and to work together wisely and intelligently. And that's why you need to take the carbon certified literacy training course.